All right, we're going to move over, talk about some D3 players signing deals with Jimmy Martin. And Jimmy, before we get started on this, a note for you. Only 14 players from Division 3 have been drafted since 1999. Man.
That doesn't shock me just
Yeah.
because of like the D3 label, but
Yep.
obviously there's talent that comes out of Division 3, and we'll get to it. But there's more than a handful of guys who need an NFL opportunity.
Yeah.
Here it
So,
comes.
I mean, when people, like you said, it's not, I guess, anything out of the status quo for there not to be a draftee. Like, we're not really averaging that. But, there are a couple of guys on this list that I will admit, at least one or two, that I was kind of surprised we did not hear their name called. The first of which probably being the one we'll start it off with, the defensive monster from Platteville. I really thought there was, if anyone, I thought, we've heard so much hype about Justin throughout the last even 3 years. He's been a consensus All-American the last 2. If there was somebody, I thought we might have heard his name this weekend, man.
Yeah, I'm with you there. I wasn't like fully expecting him to get drafted, but
Yeah.
would I have been like, who would have been the first guy I would think that would have drafted in Division 3 is Justin Bradley. So, again, 60 tackles, 8.5 sacks this year. I mean, the guy's won Defensive Player of the Year in the WIAC twice, 2-time All-American. I mean, he's the funny thing is he had 3 rushing touchdowns and he threw a touchdown too. So he's kind of like J.J. Watt, where he's like a weapon on offense.
That is
He did a lot early in his
ridiculous.
career in Houston. You know what I mean? So it's kind of cool how he can be like playing on both sides of the ball. I mean, we'll see if that happens in the league. I mean, probably not, but hey, you never know. At least you know what he can do on offense a little bit.
Yeah, and then, like, obviously the D3, a knock on a lot of the guys is usually like a size and speed and measurables type deal. He checks, I think, just about every one of those boxes. So then the obvious question mark becomes the competition level. We're going from D3 to an NFL team. And when we have seen glimpses of him playing against tough competition, the WIAC being a prime example of that, but also great examples in the this last year playing against a quality D2 team in Michigan Tech and playing against some quote-unquote upper-level squads. He has gone above and beyond just about every way. And I think, again, it goes back to just being the competition, and that jump. But, right now, when you look at the Bengals, the team that he is, you see that is going with a pretty, I don't know if I'd say a stacked defensive line unit, but I think there are a lot of pieces coming back. I do believe they just had, why am I blanking on the name? Is it Hendrickson? They just requested a trade, a big name out of that defensive line room there. So there will certainly be opportunities for him. It looks like they also did pick Cedric Johnson. They picked up another defensive lineman who I don't even believe he's a lock, quote unquote, to make the roster there. So he's going to have an uphill battle. Like, is that news to anybody?
No, I mean, in all honesty, anyone getting picked outside of like the top like 4 rounds is probably fighting for something too. So it's not like every single draft pick is like guaranteed to make it over undrafted free agent kind of guy. So I mean, once you get into camp, you just got to go in there and ball out.
Yeah, and something that I've actually, doing a little bit of reading from I like reading from the NFL, like the random NFL outlets, because they're obviously hypercritical of all these guys, as they should be, you know what I mean? But it's nice to hear it from someone other than like us or like D3 football or their own schools writing about them, because we tend to just gas people up and like talk positively, because that's, it's fun. But one thing that has been commonplace even throughout like some of the random Bengals publications and things is that a lot of these D3 guys, although maybe the immediate, potential and those kind of things doesn't stack up to their D1 counterparts, the ceiling on a lot of these guys tends to be higher because for a multitude of reasons. Maybe they didn't have the facilities, the coaching, the scheme didn't fit, whatever it is. Maybe they just haven't tapped into all that potential. The ceiling on a lot of these guys seems to be very high in comparison to some of their D1 counterparts. And Cole Burgess, we can stick with the Bengals from Cortland. He's another guy I think fits right into that category.
Yeah, I mean, anytime you make 87 catches for 1,300 yards and 16 touchdowns, like you're going to turn some heads. And Cole Burgess obviously did that this year. One of two Cortland receivers on this list that we're about to talk about, by the way. Cortland obviously just had a stellar run this year, knocking off North Central, just the absolute powerhouse. And you can see why they did it with all these weapons on offense. You got Zach Boyes as well. The quarterback was slinging the rock around all year. Burgess, absolute stud. They were talking about him on well, I believe it was like ESPN or NFL Network. Like they were actually like giving these guys like some pub, which was really
Yes, we
cool to see.
posted that. We posted out
Yeah.
the clip from the NFL Network, the Stump the Truck segment, and so the guys go around. If you haven't seen it, go to our social. It's a cool little bit. But the guys go around, Rich Eisen, Schrager, and the boys. They go around. Rappaport's on there, and they try and pick names to see if the truck has highlights for them or not. So typically these are the smaller school guys, the guys that are fringe, draft day kind of guys. Cole Burgess, they did have the cut-ups on him, and they had some nice cut-ups at that. And again, it all goes back to the questioning of the competition. But one thing that came up a lot in that, and they showed it on the tape, was just his ball tracking ability and overall just speed and quickness. Now, a lot of the criticism too in his game, you talked about the absolute volume of catches. I think a big part of the criticism comes from, okay, how is he getting the ball in most instances? Cortland, they do a great job of just getting their playmakers the ball in space. They don't really care how that happens, so that becomes a lot of bubbles, short routes, quick slants, quick hitters on the inside. He was great at it. From an NFL scout's perspective, might not be the most enticing thing to watch from a wide receiver prospect.
Yeah, but like again, like you said earlier, he has all those those great intangibles like ball tracking ability, quickness, like running those routes. Also, I mean, it's still something to show for. Like you have a lot of quick game in the NFL, and then you can't just ignore the fact that you can make those routes and make those plays, and maybe making like a catch like that over the middle is kind of like a valuable asset in a lot of ways too. So.
Yep. And that's where the Bengals, where it gets kind of interesting too, looking at both their wide receiver and their defensive line rooms. So Cam Sample and Joseph Aside, they're going to be free agents after this year in the wide receiver room, and two guys where their future I think is a little bit uncertain. You also have, as far as big name goes, you're looking at like T. Higgins, what happens over there, like with his situation, and there's a lot of pieces that'll shake up in that wide receiver room. On the D-line, Trey Hendrickson, Sam Hubbard, only under contract through 25. So obviously all through this year, but then next year kind of gets a little shaky there. But if they can stick around, these two guys in particular, in Burgess and Blazek, if they can stick around through this year, if it's a practice squad guy, if they can find their way onto that practice squad, it seems to be there might be kind of a light at the end of the tunnel for these guys, and the opportunity could be there. Now, who's to say they don't go and ball out and make the squad this year? That'd be awesome. But it looks like there might be more of an opportunity in the future for these guys, and if they can just hang on and stick around for that, they're gonna have a good chance. But let's talk about another wide receiver though, and this guy who has had much more hype, I think, leading up into this process, coming from especially a powerhouse, Mount Union. Talk to me about Wayne Ruby, man.
So obviously with Wayne Ruby, you think, okay, Mount Union receiver, and there's another Mount Union receiver that was playing in the NFL, Cecil Shorts. So you have like the big name going for you already. He's obviously, a lot of people are a huge believer in him because he's just, like we said before on many episodes, this guy is just consistent year after year after year. He had 5,600 yards, 74 touchdowns, and 362 receptions in college.
Yep.
I mean, what more can you really ask for? I mean, like weaker competition or not, like those types of numbers are something where you have to give this kid an opportunity.
Yeah.
Like he's given these NFL scouts absolutely no choice. When you score 74 touchdowns in college, it's okay.
It's absurd.
This guy's going to get a chance. So
like
we always say, if you're
crazy,
a dog, they'll find you no matter where you are.
Yeah, man. And all those numbers that you just mentioned, all historic leaders leading the team in school history in all three of those categories. And Cecil Shorts, guess where he played, Jim? Jaguars.
Jacksonville Jaguars.
So I would assume, I mean, again, I don't think coincidences work like that. I would assume, hey, it's panned out on one guy. This dude producing a hell of a lot, even more so than the guy that we really liked out of there. Let's give him a chance, see what happens. There was a blurb here from one of the kind of the Jaguars pundits, and I'll just kind of read it. Talks about Ruby, says he's a dynamic playmaker, excels at stretching the field horizontally. We can obviously agree with, even though the vertical ability, I think, is something that's talked about with him a lot more. That's something that they've identified. Says he has an excellent football IQ, does a fantastic job reading defenses, identifying soft spots and zone coverage. He's got quick burst off the line of scrimmage, creates separation, and then makes defenders miss to create yards after catched. So sounds like a lot of really good deals. Really good deals if you're a wide receiver. Not the largest frame ever. I do believe he might be a little, maybe close to 6 foot.
He is 6 foot, yeah.
Going off memory, so not terrible. But that's obviously going to come into question with quite a few of these guys. And, Burgess was one too that he's got to, put on some weight. But when he gets up to this level, he's only at, 170, 180 pounds. These guys have to certainly put on like more of an NFL frame. And if you can get yourself there and be around a really great strength coach and strength staff, they'll get you right, man. But we'll go back to Cortland though. JJ Lapp getting it done with the Rams. And I guess just off the rip, dude, for a D3 team to have two of their guys have pro opportunities after a year like this, that's incredible.
Yeah, like we said earlier, we can see why Cortland won the national championship this year. They were just absolutely stacked on offense. I mean, you see Lapp here, 70 catches, almost 1,300 yards, and 14 touchdowns. Again, when you put up numbers like this, like we've said a couple times already, you're going to get an opportunity. Whether it's the NFL, eventually maybe even like the CFL or the UFL, where it's like these guys are going to like continue their careers just because they've shown so much, and just an absolutely dynamic playmaker. Look for him to maybe make the roster. Like we say, you never know when a guy like, because look at a guy like Puka Nacua for the Rams last year. A couple of injuries. You throw him in there. He was like a late round pick, unexpected.
Yep.
And he just was the total stud this year for the Rams. So they give smaller school guys a shot in LA.
And it helps when the guy throwing you the ball makes you better, right? And that's something that he's done over there time and time again. But JJ's a guy that I think where him and Cole maybe differed a little bit. They were both great on the deep ball, but JJ's like straight line point A to point B speed, something that we watched throughout that playoff run and even during the regular season for the Red Dragons, just separated him from I think a lot of different wide receivers. It'd be interesting to see if he gets included in the special teams conversation with speed like that, whereas Cole was a guy that I think navigated a lot of open field and kind of inside routes very well in traffic and had great retention on those catches, maintaining the ball. JJ was consistently just burning people deep on the outside and defensive back safeties, whatever it was. And he commanded a lot of attention for that offense. He was a focal point for the offense. That was nothing new for him. So it will be interesting, too, to see a guy like that play, obviously, a secondary role. You don't go into rookie minicamp with the Rams, being the guy, right? So to see him in a secondary role and not having to be that dude that commands all the attention would be obviously beneficial for him.
Oh, for sure. Absolutely. Especially being a little bit younger, as a rookie too, for sure.
We'll stay right on the wide receiver train. Funny enough, we got quite a few of them actually. Now that I think of it, but a dude that we saw play in person, and I'm quite literally maybe the jack of all trades, dude. D'Angelo Hardy getting it done and signing a deal with the Ravens. Not surprised at all to see him in this position. Again, it would have been probably a reach to see him get drafted, but then again, out of all these wide receivers, this is probably a guy that has the most comparable NFL frame. Would you say when it comes to a size and measurement standpoint?
Yeah, absolutely. And like we said, this guy can absolutely do it all. He can throw, run, he can return kicks, and obviously weirdly enough, I saw ESPN post this graphic and they labeled him like the most versatile receiver in the class.
Really?
Because he can do everything. Yeah, there's this one picture on ESPN. I swear it was like a real account too, and that they actually put him in there. So I was really cool to see that, getting him recognized for that. And you can see why. I mean, you just got to turn on the film. He does it year after year, just makes tons of crazy plays. Like, I think the coolest play was when he returned that onside kick for a touchdown.
That was pretty dope. Yeah.
I was absolutely
also
wild.
The timing of that too, right? Because that was the moment when the Crosses really started to stage something. You're like, oh shit, like we could really have something here, and he just put it to bed immediately.
Game over. Ice in his veins.
Yeah. But 6'2", 200 pounds, at least on the roster. Maybe he's even added to that frame this offseason. Don't know. Haven't obviously been around the dude. But at 6'2", 200, you've got a frame that's built to go in there and make some plays. And if any wide receiver room has had a lot of question marks, it is the Baltimore Ravens wide receiver room. They started to make some big-time additions there. We'll see if that continues. And it's always interesting to look at these position groups because do you sign many of those guys in the draft, or are this kind of needs that you address afterwards in the free agent market? That's where I think a lot of this gets very interesting. But speaking about kind of those, maybe more of those afterthought guys, we had quite a few guys that maybe haven't gotten deals done yet, but did get the invites to the mini camps. But I think it's an important kind of separator because these UDFA guys are all signing deals, right? They're getting some kind of guaranteed money. A lot of that information information will probably come out in the next week or so. We do have some of that information from some of the D2 guys. I haven't seen anything, unless you have. I haven't seen anything on most of these guys yet in their deals.
No, yeah, I just have a couple of names here. You know, guys we talked about before, like Mike Bertoya, Alex Larson, Derek Sleekwa. Sorry, forgive me if I pronounce your name wrong, Derek. Randolph Macon, wide receiver. David Wallace with the New England Patriots. Liam Thompson, the Wabash quarterback, is also getting an opportunity with the Giants, the actual Giants. So that's kind of cool. The little Giants and the big Giants, you know. So that's kind of cool. That's sourced by D3 Football. These guys here too, as well. I want to give credit to the sources on it from. So.
Yeah, man. And Bertoya's a guy we've talked about quite a bit. Obviously saw him and that lacrosse team play in person. Alex Larson was a guy that was featured on that from St. John's, the tight end. He was featured on that big board that we kind of put out and promoted as well. Something worth noting, too, with Derek out of Ithaca is got 2 invites, right, to the Chiefs and to the 49ers. So how about both the AFC and NFC champs? If you're going to get invites to 2 different spots, that's pretty wild.
Pretty sweet. That's pretty awesome, man.
That's pretty cool. A name I definitely wasn't familiar with quite as much, David Wallace, coming out of Randolph-Macon, and he's not the first potential pro that we've seen come out of there. I don't know if you remember Anthony Kendall, that name ring a bell? He was a Randolph-Macon guy, correct?
Yep.
Yeah, so I have to...
Yeah, was he Baldwin Wallace?
Or no, was it Baldwin Wallace?
Yeah, it was.
Are they both B logos?
I think so. Yeah, it's like jackets. They're like the yellow jackets.
I'm gonna double check right now.
Well, what's funny about David Wallace is like that's like the guy with the name of an Office character. You know what I'm talking about?
Really?
You watch The Office? I don't know, but anyone watching this, be like, oh yeah, David Wallace. He's like Michael Scott's boss.
Oh Jesus, dude. Yeah, no, that throws me for a loop. I get those guys mixed up, but I'll double check on that. But yeah, and then finally, Liam Thompson, we've talked about a little bit on here. That was an interesting one, and he's a dude that was honored in the preseason, picked up some pretty big time awards. Was at that Peyton Manning quarterback camp and took home some hardware from there against some really quality competition. The knocks on like a D3 quarterback though, is that probably the toughest position, to make that jump?
I mean, yeah, I would say so, because the quarterback's such like a blue chip position where it's like it's a deal breaker for GMs. Like you make your hires, you hire your guy or you fire your guy based on their history with quarterbacks. And
yeah,
obviously it's a D3 quarterback speaking right now. Like it'd be tough. It's tough to make that jump just because it's such a big position to draft on, and like that usually is like a first round kind of position as well too.
Yeah. No, I get that, dude. It was Baldwin Wallace, by the way. So
yeah.
Randolph-Macon, they're the Yellow Jackets. Baldwin Wallace,
Hornets, maybe.
Dude, that's a great question. It doesn't even say.
I can't believe I got you slipping there, Kobe. That never.
Yeah, that's bad, dude.
Me.
That's bad, dude. Gosh, it's the logo. Right. The logo, the colors, man. Let's get it together here.
No, I agree. It's close. It's tough.
Yeah. So no, that'll be interesting though. I'm excited to follow those guys. And hopefully we get some news on some guys going maybe alternative routes, whether it is CFL, UFL, those kind of things as those conversations move forward. Now we've kind of separated the pack of the guys that are going to have the NFL opportunities. You're not going to see much more of that moving forward. So now we'll get to see some more of those guys embracing the alternative routes and get to follow those guys and kind of their respective timelines. So it'll be fun to watch, man. I'm excited to get these guys hopefully in camp, and even if they are like practice squad guys, just get their foot in the door.
Absolutely.
Sweet. All right, brother. That's I think that's all we got for tonight. I appreciate you.
Right on.